now. Okay. So welcome to today's Place Academy Insights. We have a panel that will be talking about their career pathway, their journey up to now, how they got to where they are, and talking about the variety of experience that they've done. So we have the amazing Martina Vretu, I've probably said your name rather, sorry Martina. Okay, thank you. She's an architect and research assistant at the Archeum Centre at the University of Liverpool. So we'll be hearing from Martina, and we'll also be hearing from Ronnie Hughes, writer, blogger for A Sense of Place, who is currently doing a PhD in sociology. So a wide range of experience from Ronnie. He's also at the University of Liverpool. And hopefully, possibly joining this call as well, we will have a third panelist, Chloe Payne. We saw her a little bit in one of our previous sessions, and hopefully she can join us again today to discuss her experience at ISG as a sustainability and social value apprentice. So in order to ask a question, you need to type your question in the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of the Zoom call. If you see a question there that someone's typed that actually you really like, you'd really like to hear the answer to that, I'd encourage you to like that question, because that will help make sure it gets to the top of the list of questions so that I can ask that question first. And hopefully you'll know by now about this 10-week-long program, and making sure that you're sort of signing up and coming along to each of our live events. If you attend all 10 of our free live events, we're rewarding you with a certificate to recognise your commitment to finding out more about the industry and attending these sessions. Okay, so that's enough from me. Let's get on with our event. So Martina, if you're ready to share your screen,
yep,
as our first panelist, that's great. Yep, that's great. We can see it. That's
all right. So I can also, yeah. So thank you, India. My name is Martina, and I'm an architect currently working in the Archeum Centre in the University of Liverpool. And I will just start by talking to you a little bit about my journey. It started in 2007. Where I graduated from school in Greece, and I came to the UK to study architecture. I finished my bachelor's in architecture in 2010, and I did 1 year of internship in an architectural practice. And straight after that, I continued with my master in architecture, and I graduated from that in 2014. And decided to do the professional architect qualification, and started looking for a job, like a proper job. I also decided to go back. That was the time that I was thinking whether I should stay here or go back to Greece and try seeking for a job there. So I ended up in Greece, and I worked as an architectural assistant, and later as a project architect in architectural practices. But what I think was very important for me at that point is that I did lots of workshops. I participated in workshops and seminars on topics that I was finding interesting, because this gave me lots of more practical insights to those topics. So one of the topics I was very interested in was the participation of people that are non-architects in the design process. So how you could get locals to be part of the decision making. So seminars on participation methods, and also I was very interested in architecture with natural materials, more on the sustainability side, building with earth, building with wood. So I volunteered in this building, this group of builders that were working on on architectural projects which were using only this material. So through volunteering and workshops with them, I learned lots. In 2016, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, with some friends, we decided to do our own studio, and we called it Anthill Studio. I will tell you a little bit about that in a bit. And in 2017, I got the chance to come back to the UK and work for Archeum with Archeum Centre, which is where I currently am, and I'm very happy about it. So let's say the milestones of this journey were the studio that we did, and then the Archeum Centre where I am now. So we'll talk a little bit about Anthill Studio. What we did was architecture and art workshops for children in the beginning, and that's how we started, because we wanted to sort of involve students and people from so we collaborated with schools, we collaborated with local councils, with museums, to sort of engage them in design and in architecture, but in a playful way. At the same time, we were doing workshops with adults, or like people of all ages. We using again my favorite materials, earth and clay and timber, straw, and also lots of recycled materials. Through these workshops and through during the experience of the studio, we learned a lot together with the participants. We built our own skill set. We collaborated with various partners, from cooperatives, from to schools, and to we were working with festivals, or with people that were organizing festivals. So we met lots of very interesting and like-minded people that are still our friends. And also, I also want to mention that these workshops were happening in Greece, around Greece, and also in Spain. So after that, in 2017, I ended up in Archeum, which made me very happy because I was following their work, and I was intrigued to join them, because so Archeum stands for Architecture and Cultural Heritage of India, Arabia, and the Maghreb, and it's a research center that is working mainly in these areas of the world. So we deal with vernacular, like traditional local architecture of these areas, of these countries, and we do from research and like publications, pedagogic material in terms of lectures or source books, to design projects. We do lots of field work. That was my favorite thing, the fact that we would go out, we would document traditional settlements, for example, and we would propose different designs and different solutions for smaller or bigger scale structures. And what I have learned from this process is definitely I've boosted my confidence has grown, and I've gained lots of knowledge in areas that I wouldn't in my previous job, and the chance to work in a variety of projects and with a variety of people, not because in our team we don't have only architects, but we have archaeologists, ethnographers. So it's interesting because you get a deeper understanding of the area you're visiting, and learning new cultures, like learning different cultures than yours, and being able to see different types of architecture that you would normally see in your everyday routine. So that was the journey. And what I wish I knew, like if I was to give some top tips, that would be to have fun with it, whatever you choose, because the work you produce in the end will be much better in that way. And it's totally okay if you fail, and it's totally okay to feel vulnerable. We all do, but it makes us want to be better and do more. It's very important to identify your strengths, because if you're good at something, I think you should use it, and you should it should be your asset, your strong point. The next one is it's something that at the moment is a bit difficult, but when this is a bit possible again, I think it's very important to go and see places, go and see like spaces, go and just, I don't mean to go far, but to just observe the built environment around you, and to talk to people about your interests, about your work, because this will grow your network, and it's very important. You can get valuable colleagues and friends through that. So, for example, for me, it worked perfect for the workshops. We ended up in Spain because I had met some friends from workshops in the past, and then we ended up working there. Or like with Archium, I had some colleagues of mine. I met them in the university, and then we sort of kept in touch, and this is how I ended up in Archium. And my favorite one is the last one. If what you want does not exist, I think, so if your dream job is not there, you cannot find it, you just invent it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martina. It's really interesting to hear the varied experience that you've had with participatory work, with workshops with adults and young children in Spain and in Greece, and then coming back over here and your research work now at the Archium Centre, and how that blends architecture with heritage and archaeology. And it's really interesting to hear how it's just a different opportunity in how you might work in that sector, but blend it in with research and other fields of work. So thank you so much. Ronnie, would you like to go next? Sharing your screen and presenting.
Yes, I was just typing an answer in the chat then, so I'll go straight into
so guys, yes, share your screen whenever you're ready. If you do, I can see there's some questions coming in, which is great. So don't be afraid to ask your questions, just type them in the question box and we'll come to them. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to be quiet.
Okay, can you see my screen yet? Yeah?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. I'll go back to my first. Yeah, okay. I'm Ronnie Hughes. I'm from A Sense of Place, which, as well as a blog, is the name of an organisation of two of us that we invented to follow up on Martina's suggestion 25 years ago. My career has split in two, really. I worked for 20 years in housing, and for 25 years I've been self-employed. While I worked in housing, I worked in two jobs, in the City Council and in the Housing Association, before I then went off, and for the second half of my life, really, I did what I now do, which I'll describe a bit. The photographs I'm showing you as we go through this are of a particular piece of work that I've now been involved in for the last 10 years. And that photograph showed you what it looked like when we started, an area of a lot of empty houses. And that photograph is towards the end of them looking a lot better than they used to look. But I'll explain a little bit about that later on. So the work that I did was actually all inspired by a photograph that I saw when I was the age of a lot of you who are sat at home listening to me probably. I was 14 years old. I was on, I'm from Liverpool, as you can probably tell, I hope. I was on a bus going into town and just where the bus turned from into the corner of London Road and going to Lime Street, there was a great big notice board. And on the notice board was the photograph that changed my life, and here it is. So as it says, this is a photograph of Mr. Owen and his family, and it was taken by a photographer called Nick Hedges for Shelter. Shelter was the homelessness campaign that had only just set up in the 1960s. And I was with my dad, and I said, Dad, where's that of? And he didn't really know, but there was some other information on the actual poster which said that it was in Liverpool, which was a real shock to me, because we lived in a new estate at the edge of the city. Inside the city, we were then filling up with new tower blocks, which we thought were the answer. Everything was new. Liverpool had been really badly damaged in the Second World War, but everything was new now. And the fact that people were living in that, to me, that looked like a still from some kind of Charles Dickens film. The musical Oliver was really popular at the time, and I just expected all of them to start asking for more and seeing, if there was any way out of this poverty. I wanted to know where that was, and I wanted to do something about it. I couldn't do much when I was 14, but by the time I was 18, I was working in the city council. So I had my two jobs then, and the first one was in the city council. For any of you know Liverpool, I was working in a council housing office in Scotland Road, and also up at the top of Netherfield Heights, on top of the hill in Everton. So not very many of us, looking after the housing for 18,000 families, and it was fantastic. And it was so good that I nearly didn't go to university. I really loved it. I was only a temp, getting paid hardly anything, but really loved it and knew that I was doing what I wanted to do. It wasn't in the place where that photograph had been, but it was great. And I actually worked in the city council. I did go to university because I already had a place. But I worked in the city council during all of the holidays, just went back. It was that kind of, it was open then. I could just turn up and say, I'm on holiday now, can I start working again? And they used to let me. But most of the way through my degree, I found out about housing associations from a girlfriend who was working in one. And I thought, that sounds great. Because as I said, there was loads of us, or loads of houses and families being looked after by not many of us. But the person I met said, well, actually, I know this place called Liverpool Housing Trust, where there's only a few of them, but they've only got about 2,000 properties. I think that would suit you. And so I went and started volunteering for Liverpool Housing Trust, and lo and behold, they worked in the area where that photograph was. So they worked then only in Canning and Granby in Liverpool 8. And I was home, really. I just thought, oh, I'm home now. And I thought that would be my job forever. I mean, jobs forever don't really exist anymore. But then I thought, I'm here now. And so at Liverpool Housing Trust, I went from a volunteer to working in the development department that did up the houses. Then they let me buy a computer because people didn't have computers then. And I set that up and ran that for a few years as part of the finance department. And then I wasn't really very interested in finance. So I moved on to housing management, to research, and eventually I became a director of, it was called Central Services, but it was a director of the place. And the place had got very big by the middle 90s and was okay, but I wasn't really doing very much housing anymore. That's the thing when you get to be a senior officer. I was a senior officer. So my partner, Sarah, who I'd met by then, we imagined up the bits of both of our jobs that we both really loved doing. And we set up a sense of place, a sort of arty way of doing forward planning for communities. And what we didn't know then were called social enterprises. So the idea was to do only the work that we loved. I mean, that didn't always work out, of course. You never quite know. But on the whole, we were on the way then. And that's been great. That's been our income for the last 25 years, mostly in the north of England, but sometimes all over Britain, and once gloriously from San Francisco and up the west coast of America. So really good. It's been fantastic, a real adventure. So now I'm still a sense of place. It's still, Sarah doesn't work with me anymore. There's a whole other story where she's doing something else now, but she's in the next room now. We live very happily together. A Sense of Place is a blog, which I write now about Liverpool and all of our experiences here. I still write and help and think people about how to create what I always call better lives and better places. That's what I'm for. So I've worked a lot with lots of other social and community enterprises. And now I'm at university doing a PhD. They got to know about what I was doing because they came and asked me to do a couple of guest lectures at the university. And then one day they said, I don't suppose you fancy doing a PhD? And of course I said, no, of course not. Why would I want to? But actually I love it. It's been a really good challenge to me. I thought I was done with academic learning, but it's been great. But it's also given me a few years to step back a little bit from being a frontline activist. I think of myself as an activist principally, and think, well, what's working out of all the things that we've done? What doesn't work? What can I help to maybe even teach people about things? And how can the lessons of one place maybe spread to the other places? I'm still thinking about this photograph. Everything is about how can we create better lives and better places, and how do we stop people ever having to live like that? I mean, that looked historical to me in the late 60s. If it was in colour, I could walk you now to the places in Liverpool where people are still living like that, and it's not right, it's not fair, and it's not okay. So there's still work to do. The achievements, I think, there are some better lives being lived in better places, I think, through work that I've been involved in. It's generally, and the best of it is always cooperative work with other people, with whole groups of other people. And the best of it all has been nothing to do with money. The really nice thing about A Sense of Place has been that we have mostly earned enough money to do some of the work that needed doing for free. And certainly the work that I've enjoyed the most in my life, which has been in Granby, which is where that photograph was taken. I've been involved with them now since 2010. And that's been great. There was 200 empty houses in the last 4 streets in Granby. 3 of those streets are now done, and one of them contains the glorious place with a glass roof, a community winter garden that you'll see in a minute. And that's been fantastic. And a few years ago, for art fans, we even won the Turner Prize for that. But the big prize for me has been the learning, the being there, and just the huge joy of it. Because Granby was, well, you saw the picture, you know, Granby was very, very, very badly treated throughout the last 50 years. Really quite a racist history, some parts of Liverpool have, and, you know, Granby had really suffered from that. So that's been great. And, you know, I know this is about careers, but the more experience I think you can get from volunteering at things as well as doing your job, then the more you can actually bring to places when it turns out they need you. So even in Granby, I've done this kind of talking at the front of rooms, metaphorically, but I've also helped them with their marketing, with their website stuff, and then when we actually got on site for a little while, I was the site supervisor, you know, because I've got a range of things that I like doing. So the top tip, for me, it's travel in the general direction of doing work you love. You won't always get it right, but as long as you know you're moving towards things you really like doing and are finding that you like doing from experience, someone on the chat then just asked me on the Q&A, is it experience or education? And for me, it's always been experience. There have been things along the way where I thought, oh, I really fancy doing that, but I go and try and do it, and I don't really like it. You know, it's all about experience, but always allow yourself to be surprised. You know, it's amazing the things that will turn up, but you have to, I think you have to put yourself in the way of them. You have to get used to being able to say yes to things and give it a go. And also have the courage when it's not working to say, I'm not really very good at this, or I don't like this. But, you know, some of the things that will turn up will be fantastic. And you never know when being surprised is going to turn up next. I think, and the surprises won't always be good. Some of the surprises are, you know, no one would say that the pandemic turning up has been a laugh. Of course it hasn't. But I think if you can allow yourself to be surprised in your life, and you have some personal resilience and support around you, then you can cope with what happens, you know. So, but being open to the surprise is the big thing. And one last picture of Granby. So this was the house that started the presentation today. It has had no roof. No one's lived in it for 25 years. It's actually 2 houses. And one of our dreams was for these 2 houses. They were in a much worse state than any of the other houses. And the people who are in Granby said, do you know what we'd really like? We'd like it if those 2 houses could be knocked together, could have a glass roof, have a garden in one of them, and a meeting place in the next one. Fat chance, we all said. And then we won the Turner Prize and we raised the money to do it. And not only does it have that, then Nina, our friend from down the road in the Welsh Streets, designed the chandelier. So it's all that, and it's got a chandelier. So you know, if you're open to surprise, one day you can stand in a place like this and say, yeah, I partly did that.
Wow, thank you, Ronnie. That was so interesting to listen to your journey and all the different experience that you had along the way, and that really beautiful picture there of the building at the end. And I think there's something ringing true here from you and Martina about volunteer work, making sure that you're getting as much wide range of experience as you can out there, because that's going to really help you find those things that you enjoy doing, and you never know what opportunity that's going to lead to, or who you're going to meet and what that might turn into further on down the line. So Chloe, we're hoping to hear from you next. I'm going to try and get your presentation up, and I hope it's going to work for me this time around.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm trying to get it into presentation mode.
Right. So yeah, my name's Chloe.
Oh, your audio's gone a bit weird.
So yeah, my name's Chloe. I work for a company called IoT. They're a construction technology company. Currently, I work in sustainability and social value. Next slide.
I've pressed it for next slide. Is it working? Come on.
No.
There we go.
Always me.
Has it worked,
So
Chloe?
quite loaded and everything. I can do it off my memory. Let's try. No. So I started. I'll get it up. So see it. So I left school in 2012. Sort of complete my GCSEs. I went on to do college, where I did an extended level 3 diploma in countryside management. I completed that and I left there, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. When I left school, I was originally wanting to be an ultrasonographer, which is like scanning people with babies in their tummies and stuff. But I decided I wasn't going to do that, because when I went on work experience in a department that did that, I didn't really enjoy it, and there was just something missing. I didn't really want to do that. I then went on to work in for Canal and River Trust, which was a bit of a strange step because I wasn't too sure about it. I started working there and I really enjoyed it because I enjoyed being outside. And I actually did a stonemasonry level 3, which was really different for me because I didn't think that I'd like to go into that. So I ended up completing college for a second time and a third time because I did a level 2 and a level 3. I then decided that I'd like to go on to sort of more management side of things. So I went to a company called Faithful and Gold, where I did a level 4 HNC. So that was sort of for project management and construction management. From there, I started my job with ISG doing social value. Previously to sort of working in the social value, I was really interested in heritage. So I got to work on the Manchester Town Hall project, where I met a lot of different people there. It was really exciting. Next slide, please.
Yep, we're on next slide.
Thank you. So what's it been like and what am I most proud of? I think I'd say the projects that I work on, because I think that it's really given me an opportunity to see things that I wouldn't ordinarily see if I'd been working for other people. I think every day is different, which I enjoy, because doing the same thing every day just makes me really bored. So it's really important for me to just sort of have different things to do. I think I learned a lot about myself as well and what I enjoy and what I don't enjoy, which has been really important for me, and making a lot of lifelong friends. I think that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you, Chloe. Am I still showing my screen?
Yes.
I don't want to, but I can't seem to find where to stop sharing. Oh my goodness. I think we've started. Sorry, I don't know why this isn't. I just want to stop sharing, but it's not working. So I think we've started answering some of these questions. Sorry, everyone, just bear with me a moment. I know some of our panelists have been looking at some of your questions. There we go, stop share. That have been coming through, which is great. But I think what I will do is pick up some of those answered questions for our panelists to expand on in person live now. So, Chloe, I'm just going to jump straight in and ask you, actually. Someone had asked whether you advise doing apprenticeships or university, and given that you chose to go down the apprenticeship route and we sort of had this as a bit of a focus in this session today about pathways and how you get to where you are you able to expand a bit on why you chose to do apprenticeships?
Yeah, so I chose to do an apprenticeship because it's that kind of earning and learning. Obviously you don't get that if you just go straight to work, and you do miss out on a lot of experience that can go hand in hand with your learning. So it's useful to kind of be able to put it into real life situations when you're at university. At least that's what I found was the most benefit to me. So I would recommend apprenticeships, definitely.
Thank you. And Ronnie, you talked a lot about getting experience, and how when you started that temp job, you were actually really loving it, but then you still went to university. If you could go back and, you know, make that decision again, do you think with the knowledge that you have now, do you think you would have gone to university or stayed in that workplace, in that job? Because we tend to just sort of go that route because we think that's the way we should go. But
yeah, I think it's a real, it's one of those sliding doors moments. I think I would have been happy either way. But I do have a close friend who made exactly the decision I didn't make.
right.
He had much more of a career in housing, in if you like, in success and earning money terms than I ever did. But I think for me, it suited me to actually do, because I was able to do both of them and still work in housing during all the holidays. That suited me. And I think what going to university gave me that I might not have picked up so much in housing was self-confidence. I think the self-confidence of grappling with an academic subject has given me since then the self-confidence to learn things quite quickly, and also to not be too put off if I don't know how to do something, because I've got the confidence to think I'll be able to pick it up fairly quickly. That's got me into some terrible scrapes along the way. but you know, so there's a bit of both there. I think you cannot beat the experience of doing things. But what I've worked out as I've got older is how quickly can I get that experience? How quickly can I find out whether I might like that thing, you know, without committing to it for life? Can I go and do that thing for a week or a day? Because I will know by then whether I like it or I don't. So yeah.
And your answer to that would be to volunteer or to get out there and get doing it, would it be?
Whichever is the closest to you. You know, if you can get out there and do it within a job, or even some kind of setting up of your own enterprise, even if it's not really an enterprise, even if it's just an activity, you know, if you can get the experience somehow or other, go and get it. And I think we make a mistake to think we can only do one thing at once. I think that's left over from the days of Jobs for Life, when you think, I am an accountant and I'm accountant at ICI or whatever giant company, and that's it. I think you can do more things in a day, in a week, in a year than we reckon we can. So, you know, without not having a life as well.
Yeah,
you know.
I suppose it's about being savvy with your time and kind of, but if those things that you are doing are enjoyable, then the time's going to fly and you're having a good time. So it's, yeah, if you've got a full life doing many different things.
And if some of them aren't enjoyable, don't go and get a job in them. Just don't. You know, wait until a decent one can come along, unless you absolutely have to work for the money.
Thank you. And just to carry on from that, so how does your university compare, you know, because you've gone back into academic study now, doing a PhD, what's your experience this time around going back into that university environment, having, you know, left it gone and done all this work and then coming back in as a mature student compared to when you first went?
Well, funnily enough, I was really nervous, really nervous that I just wouldn't be able to in any way cut it as an academic. So I was frightened of specific academics, like, you know, I knew that Michel Foucault, who's like a very deep, densely spoken French philosopher, I knew he would come up at some point, and I was terrified of Michel Foucault. But it's been great. It has been absolutely fantastic. But I've been able to do some shaping of what I'm there for, to bring in my own work. So really, you know, whatever it might have said when I actually started this PhD, it's now about how do you make better lives in better places, and that's that. You know, so
yeah, so you've tailored it to what you
yeah,
want to be spending your time on. Yeah.
I think most academics who do PhDs would say that they take off at the point where you make it your own. So yeah, great. Yeah, love it.
Great, thank you. So there are two questions so make sure you're checking out the answered questions, everybody on the call, because our panelists have been brilliant in responding live to those questions. We've got two that have come through that we haven't looked at just yet. One being, what activities and things on people's CVs make them more employable? To open out to either Martina or Chloe, does anyone have something to add to that question? Yeah, Martina?
I think it depends on what types of jobs you are looking after. So in architecture practices, for example, according to the type of practice that you would aim for, the different things would be thought, like volunteering, I think is quite important, and experience in various environments. But again, if let's say the practice you're applying to is a really small practice that does housing and like small spaces, then having worked in master planning is not, obviously it's not bad, but it's not what they would seek for. So usually aim for things that will make you more attractive to the employer according to what they do. I don't know if that answers the question. Obviously, yeah, the more practical experiences is always is good, but I think it depends. It always depends.
Does anyone have anything to add on that question, Ronnie or Chloe? What activities or things on people's CVs make them more employable?
I think just sort of finding things that you're passionate about, because I think when you can talk about something that you really enjoy, it makes it sound, you get more out of it, I think is what I'm trying to say. So I know I've done volunteering with the National Trust because I really enjoyed that. And obviously it looked really good on my CV because it linked nicely into things that I've done within the construction industry. But at the same time, I've done things like volunteering at a homeless shelter, so helping to do the washing up after we've made meals, or just talking to the homeless people that were coming in. So there's a wide range of things that you could do, but I think if you enjoy doing something, then try to find something that you can volunteer in that.
Thank you, Chloe. And that kind of leads nicely into another question here that we've got about any suggestions of where to get volunteer activities and experience. You've mentioned the National Trust and a homeless charity that you volunteered for. How did you go about getting that? How did you get that opportunity? What advice would you give to young people that are trying to find ways to start volunteering? Oh, we've lost you, I think, your audio. Hello, Chloe?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I sort of started looking at things that I was kind of interested in. So just having a Google about what kind of things are out there, and there's a lot more than what you kind of expect when you actually look for them. Because you think, oh, there can't be that many that exist. Obviously, you see the ones that are on the television, or kind of hear about ones that you might know are local to you, but there are a lot more than what you might expect.
Yeah, so sort of having an initial search, and you'll be surprised what you might find out there. Ronnie, do you have anything to add on how to kind of find some volunteering opportunities, or how to get involved in different activities in the community?
Yeah, I think with Twitter and Instagram, etc., it's a lot easier to go and nose around and see who's busy at the moment, doing things that you might be interested in, and see if they're running anything. So if somebody is, for example, running a bakery or a laundrette as some kind of social enterprise, or like in Granby where we run the street market, go to it. Even before you volunteer, go to the place, just have a nose around, see what people are doing. If it is a market or some kind of shop or business you can get into, just walk around and start talking to the people, so you become yourself. One of the problems I used to find when I was a director, taking on job experience volunteers, if you like, was that we didn't really have very much for them to do. Because if we needed people, we'd already taken them on. So you were kind of showing people around and hoping they'd stay busy all day for what really turned out to be about half an hour's busyness. So it's much more fun for the volunteers yourself if you can find a place that's already busy, because you might even be able to spot what it is they could help with, with fetching, carrying, serving on stalls, generally getting a lot of experience. I think there's nothing beats feeling genuinely useful, genuinely appreciated. So, I've known with you know, as well as Granby, I've had some experience with Home Baked in Anfield and Kitty's Laundrette up in Everton and Anfield. And, you know, some of the best people that have turned up have literally said, do you want anything doing? And they're in, you know. There's
Yeah.
probably somebody washing the dishes in Home Baked today, and all she ever did was hang around in the shop too long and say, do you want any help? Yeah, we do actually. And, you know, that's how you get in. And the next thing you know, you're running your own stall.
Yeah.
You've got experience in these places, and then you know people. And also the people get to know you, and they will say, oh, I think Chloe, or, you know, whoever you are, you might like to do this, and then you're away.
Yeah.
And then you start in the end, you won't see a gap between the things you get paid for and the things you might have volunteered for and the things you love, because it's all about you by then.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's just about being confident and getting out there. And that kind of echoes Martina's top tips at the end of her slide there, although it's very difficult currently because of the pandemic. But once hopefully these restrictions start lifting and we can return to a normal-ish life, then you need to get out there, go visit places and meet people and get involved. And you just don't know where that's gonna lead to. So I'm just checking the other questions that are coming in. So Martina, do you prefer to work in Greece or the UK?
I'm not sure, because I really enjoy both. I enjoyed all the time that I have been working in Greece, also because it's different, and I'm always intrigued in working in different environments. So what I really like with working in the UK now is that I'm not working in one country. Okay, I'm based in the UK, but the projects we do are on various countries, like in Morocco, we do things in Oman, in India. So this is what has always been very, very important for me to sort of get, because I get bored very easily as a person. I like this change and the chance to do more. So even now that I'm here, I'm trying to do things back home. So to sort of arrange workshops when I go to visit for some small time or so. So yeah, it's not easy to say one place.
The variety is what you enjoy. Yeah.
But obviously that's for me. Other people would prefer something else. Yeah.
But it's certainly quite exciting, I think, doing some sort of international work. Ronnie, you mentioned that you had the opportunity. Was it San Francisco you went to? If I remembered that.
Yeah. Well, it was what happened was it was a tour of Britain that we used to do when social enterprises were just getting going. I volunteered for the Big Issue, which led to work with another social enterprise, which then led to us all inventing a touring version of an enterprise that took people all around Liverpool, then all around the UK, and then to San Francisco, basically looking at social enterprises and helping to develop other social enterprises from what we saw. So we went from San Francisco to Oakland and up the West Coast to Seattle. And we visited a mixture of social and very, very big enterprises. So we went to Boeing and Starbucks as well, just to see what ideas can we take from you, and can we get things working between social enterprises and ethical enterprises, be they huge or not. And that was fantastic, and that was a real adventure. So, you know, come the day, just one of many magical things that happened. Come the day, because I'm making films by then as part of what I'm doing, because we were interested. That's just one of the skills we tried out. I'm jammed up with my back against the prow of a ship, filming all the people who are in America with us, and we're sailing under the Golden Gate Bridge on a spring evening.
Wow. Who would have thought that's where you'd end up having, you know, it's kind of echoing again what Martina said about if something doesn't exist, invent it. You know, you can make these opportunities happen for yourself. Chloe, I'm aware that you also work for a really big international you know, ISG is quite huge. Have you had any opportunities to work abroad with your job there?
I haven't currently with this job, but when I worked for Canal and River Trust, we got to travel around the UK. And then when I went on to Faithful and Gold, we had the opportunity to go to some of their projects that were abroad. If we wanted to. I didn't, but we could do if we wanted to.
Wow. So yeah, opportunities not only in the UK but worldwide. So think big, young people. You know, there's lots of opportunities out there. Okay, I'm conscious of time and that we probably need to kind of wrap the session up. Someone's asked how many more sessions are left. So we were just thinking this before. I think we've got 2 more sessions left of our 10-week program. We really hope that you've found them beneficial and really interesting. Today's session especially was about thinking about those different pathways you can take along your career and how your career might change and adapt and take a different, it's not necessarily just one straight line, and you can sort of change your mind along the way, and you don't know who you're going to meet or what opportunity will come along. So hopefully, having listened to our 3 panelists today, thank you so much, panelists. That's a little taster of what their experiences have been so far, and who knows what they're going to end up doing in the future too. But thank you for joining us today, and hope to have you join us again next Monday. Yeah, amazing panelists. Thank you so much. I'm now going to end the call, but thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.